What's up, nerds? I am Kwam, and today I'm bringing you a quick, unedited video on how to update and fine-tune your own loot filter. First, before we even go anywhere, obviously I'm using NeverSink's filters. I've been using NeverSink's filters as long as I can remember. I will post the links in the description below, both for FilterBlade to graphically get a filter and also to the GitHub where you can just download the raw files. I encourage everyone to go and support NeverSink. This is not an endorsement. I just personally think that NeverSink's filters are fantastic and some of the best out there for the general community. NeverSink is also in 3.17, starting an auto update sub. I think it's starting out at $3 a month, and eventually they want to get it down to $1 a month. If you can afford this and you want quick, constantly updated filters, it's a great service for you to get a part of. Anyway, so starting out, I'm just going to dive into it. If you're not familiar with programming type languages or scripting or anything like that, something I want to point out right away is this hashtag, octothorpe, #, whatever you want to call it. That basically means that this whole line is commented. So that's why he can just, or I can just put in whatever I want, and it's not read by the filter. It's just a blank line to the game. So you can see here, basically the keywords for everything below are show and hide. So it's going to show whatever we have here in its subparagraph, or it's going to hide it. And I have a couple examples to kind of demonstrate this. Everything in the game is text-based, essentially. It's all JSON. And so that's why your filters and your stash tab and all of anywhere that you have a search bar in the game, you can just type text and it highlights stuff because everything is text. I won't go into the finer details of JSON and everything else like that, but just trust me, it's all text, and that's why the filters work by just typing the names of items. And so just to demonstrate some of what I'm talking about here, so we have, using a very strict filter like I have here, you're not going to see things like 6 sockets. Let's say you're running, a super strict filter for whatever reason. You're tired of seeing splinters or other little things. But let's say you still want to get jeweler's orbs. Well, so I forgot to change it back. But let's see if I turn. Okay, there we go. I didn't load my old filter. So notice that the 6 socket drops, and I can't. And it's not only can I not see it, but even if I hold space, it's really small, and I can barely tell it's there. So how do I fix this, right? So in my loot filter, I can look up sockets greater than or equal to 6. And so you see here we have a couple options, recipes and 5 links. So the recipe in this case is you get 7 jeweler's orbs. So there's 2 different things you can do here. The first is, so notice that this has sockets greater than or equal to 6, and you have a whole bunch of numbers and random options here. But the first thing to pay attention to is, even though it says show here, notice that it has this hashtag # in front, which means none of this is being read. This is all hidden. So that's why we can't see this. Now, if I was to do this, I took those off. Now I can read it, and it says, oh, it says show. And I save the file, and I go back to my game, and I re-update my filter. But wait, I still can't see it. Well, why not? I just made that readable. Well, that's because notice that in this particular instance, it has to have link sockets greater than or equal to 5, which is not something we want. So I'm going to keep that line hidden, which basically makes it like it's not even there. It's non-existent. You go back to the game, and there you go. Now you can see 6 sockets. Typically, that wouldn't be. You wouldn't necessarily want to do that one. You can do this one down here. But notice that down here, if this is just a show any 6 socket item that's rare or lower in rarity, which means magic or normal. And so we'll save and load it up again. Now it doesn't have a map icon, a mini map icon. It doesn't make a sound when it's dropped, but it just shows up. And the reason is because notice it doesn't have any play sound effect, minimap icon, any of these other options here. So let's just say that you wanted to change, and this is for any item, by the way. So I'm just using this item as an example, but we're going to modify everything here that can be changed for any item in the game. If you want to add different sounds to an item, you want to change the colors of things, you can do that all in these few fields. So first off, we'll just hide this linked sockets one here. So we'll keep the font size at 45. So the text color and the board, so basically anything with color, the first three numbers are your RGB colors. And so if you're watching this, you probably already know what I'm talking about with those. If you want to know what a specific color is, you can Google or go online and look at any RGB converter, and it'll tell you the number combination if you want a specific color. So for example, if I wanted the text color to be black, I could change this to 0, 0, 0, and it should be black. There we go. And so it changes the text color. The fourth number is the opacity or transparency of the object. So if I change this to 100, notice that it's very transparent. I can barely see it. If I change the background color to 0, the background is transparent. And so you can use this if you want to do cool things or tweak or whatever. You can make it so. Now let's say there's a whole bunch of different icons that you can pick for the minimap if you want. And I'll post this below, but on the wiki, there's a whole section dedicated to filters. And you can see there's all kinds of both colors and shapes that you can apply to the minimap. So if you wanted a purple square, you could do it. If you wanted a brown cross, you could do that. So you can customize any item you want with basically any of these combinations for the minimap. Now the sound effect, there's 1 through 16 default sounds. You can customize your own soundtrack, and there are people out there that have loot filters that when you drop a Chaos Orb, it's like Chaos or Exalt or things like that. Or you can have ridiculous sounds. They're all out there. You can go find them and download them. That's outside the scope of this video. But everyone is probably familiar with the first 6 sounds. I believe all of NeverSink's filters only use the first 6 sounds. So for example, PlayAlertSound 2, that is this one. Sorry. That's this one that you're already familiar with. That normal bong type sound or whatever it is. The one that everyone loves to hear is number 6. You can probably already know what that one is. And don't get baited by your own 6 socket that's not actually worth anything. 2 is the default. 3, I think, is like what is the standard for a divine. No, not quite a divine. Whatever. But you're familiar with those sounds. And so you can change it to whatever sound you want. And again, this is for any item. The effect, the play effect, this is the color that's coming off of the item on the ground. So if I wanted to say play effect, come on, purple, right? We'll say play effect purple. It'll change it. And now we have a purple effect. Really cool. And so you can help draw attention to some of the items that you really want to see versus just relying on a sound to know what they are. Let's see, what else do I want to go over real quick? So also some things that you can change is, for example, we're going to search for a scholar card, right? Now, this was more relevant before 3.16, where they buffed the absolute crap out of portal scrolls, wisdom scrolls, where they drop in stacks. And honestly, after the campaign, if you're picking up armor scraps and blacksmith whetstones and transmutes, you don't even really need to pick up wisdom scrolls anymore. But if you didn't know, you can sell those for 4 wisdom scrolls each. But let's just say for some reason you wanted to see more than a few wisdom scrolls, right? In this case, even a stack of 9 won't show up on the filter. You could search for wisdom scroll. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a scroll of wisdom. And so you can see that this is a leveling area. We aren't interested in leveling areas. Leveling areas are any area level that's 67 or below. So for most endgame stuff, this doesn't matter. So you can see here, we're showing stack sizes of 10 or more only, and we're hiding stack sizes of basically 6 or less. Well, in this case, we're really 9 or less we're hiding. If you wanted to quick change this without having to change any numbers, you would just say show stacks of 6 or more. And boom, it shows us because it's 6 or more. The other thing, the reason I was showing this is so the scholar, I forgot to change this back before I started the video. But notice, so the scholar isn't actually part of this list. The way that divination cards are organized in the loot filter is it arranges them into groups and says, I want to see all of these types of cards. But notice that, so these are put into tier 5 cards, right? The scholar is part of the tier 5 cards. You're like, I don't want to see that. It's not worth my time, especially after 316. It's really not worth your time to pick these up. Well, let's just say for some reason you're hurting for cards and you want to pick up scholar cards because you turn in 3, you get 40 wisdom scrolls. So what you can do, and this is hidden, you can just take this scholar and copy and paste it into any div card group that is showing, and I can paste it there. Before I do that, let me demonstrate what happened here. Because I took it off the filter. You can't see it anymore. It's gone, but it's still there, but it's not showing up on your filter. So we will now paste it into an area that's showing for div cards. I will save, go back to the game. Boom, now I see it. And you can do this with any div card. I'd like to I'm pointing this one out specifically because there was several leagues ago, Malagaro's Virtuosity, the gloves that give you a straight, what is it, 250 crit or 400 crit multi? I think it's 250. Whatever number it is. Those gloves were going for a couple hundred chaos, and the loot filters that were out were hiding that card by default. And so someone like me that was running like hundreds of burial chambers, I didn't realize until like 150 burial chambers in that I was hiding that div card the entire time. And so I was potentially losing out on hundreds and hundreds of Chaos Orbs in picking up those cards and selling them, or just turning around 9 and selling the gloves themselves. So by paying attention to the market, because NeverSink doesn't have the time to upgrade the filter like every couple days or every week or something like that. So if you notice the economy isn't going in one direction and you happen to realize that a certain div card is becoming valuable in the league that you're playing in, but it's hidden by your filter, you can go and take it and move that card specifically into another group. As you saw, copy, paste, save, reload the filter took me 10 seconds versus potentially going to Filter Blade and remaking my entire filter with all my options that I want, and then just changing that one aspect, that one div card to include in my drops. So for these small changes, personally editing a loot filter that's where the advantage comes in my opinion. I think that pretty much covers everything I want to go over. This works for any item in the game. If you want certain uniques to drop, you can put them into specific unique groups. Here in this case, you see we have incubators. So you have specific names of incubators, and we're hiding like all of these incubators. If you wanted any of these incubators to show up, you just move it from a group that's hidden into a group that's showing. Save it, reload the filter in the game. That's all you have to do. Super easy. I mean, I made it sounds easy when I'm explaining it. If you've never looked at this before, it may seem more complicated or whatever. If you have any questions on this, feel free to post in the comments below. In the comments below. And other than that, look forward to playing 3.17 with all of you. Later, Exiles.